Well, at 61, I'm having the best sex of my life. Not only is my vagina gorgeous, plump, lush, unbelievably activated, highly orgasmic, and pain-free.
All right, what's up, guys? I am super blessed and excited to have Susan Bratton on the show. She is an intimacy expert to millions. She's a best-selling author and publisher of over 34 books and programs, and she's on a mission to champion and advocate for all those who desire to have more intimacy and more passion in their life. Susan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joel, it's so great to be here, and thank you for talking about sexual biohacking with me today. One of the things we were talking about before we got started was I like to tell people what they wish they'd known then. Kind of that hindsight is 2020, how you can have ageless sexuality, how you can have sex that keeps getting better your whole life long instead of swirling down the toilet like all your friends.
This is so impactful because I just turned 40 years old, and I actually think my sex life is better than it was when I was, 10 years ago with my wife. But I was even having that thought in my head, like, will it always be this way when I'm 60 or 70? Like, I sure hope so. And so this is a poignant topic, and I'm really happy to have you on. So, yeah, like, what are some of these things that we can be doing,
Yeah. Well, at 61, I'm having the best sex of my life. Not only is my vagina gorgeous, plump, lush, unbelievably activated, highly orgasmic, and pain-free, and lubricated, but my lover's penises are like rock hard, big, thick, gorgeous. They last as long as they want to. They have full body male multiple orgasms. We have sex in crazy positions. We have energetic sex. We do like 20 things in a lovemaking date. We have incredible sensual pleasure. There's a lot of moaning and dirty talk, and we use toys, and we just have like massively satisfying sex lives. I have more orgasms than you would believe. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I most recently wrote was the 20 kinds of male and the 20 kinds of female orgasms, because I want people to understand that we are currently barely scratching the surface of our orgasmic potential. And what I call myself an orgasmonaut. I go to the far reaches of orgasmic outer space, and I come back with the map to the territory, and I'm like, here's one of the orgasms you can have, and here's how you do it. These are the steps. And I love to teach people how to come really well, because with all those sexual regenerative things that I've done to have an incredible vulva, and my partners to have these incredible penises, I have really expanded my orgasmic repertoire to be able to come in so many ways, and so have they. So there's like, sexual biohacking to me is very multidimensional. It's not just about the techniques and the skills. It's not just about the body-based piece. It's also about how big is your heart? How much can you love? How can you deepen your intimacy? I mean, when you're like out flipping a tire or doing a sledgehammer or lifting the most weight you've ever lifted or running the fastest you've ever done, or whatever you've done, like whatever that level of accomplishment is where you just feel like really, really bomb ass great about yourself. And you've done that because you've watched your food, and you've gotten your sleep dialed, and you've done all your biohacking. That's what your sex life can be like too. It can just be this like continuous bettering of your experience on multiple dimensions. And so when I think about intimacy and sexuality, and when I teach people what to do, I really like to take into account all of the components of sex: your communication, your dirty talk, your sensual talk, your moaning, like everything that you're doing, what toys are fun, everything. So I know we can't get into everything. I can come back, but
you will come back, because I know I got a lot to ask you, and it ain't gonna get done in an hour. So I'm excited.
Yeah, but that's what I think about sexual biohacking. It's not just what are the treatments and tools and protocols I'm using to keep my genitals in good working order, but what are all the other things too? But I think we should start there, because mostly people don't even know what's available in that category, and they think that, oh well, I'm going through menopause, so I guess, I'm just going to have painful sex, or I'm just going to have low libido, or, well, I'm 50, I can't expect to be as hard as I did when I was 20. And I'm like, bullshit. Yeah, you can. And here's how.
I think too, and it's really interesting just to hear you talk. I feel like it's just, there's a mindset shift too, because I think we have been programmed to, oh, well, when you get 50, when you get 60, like you're just supposed to be sexless, and you're supposed to just roll over and die. And I mean, I can even just think about my grandmother when she was in her 70s. She would constantly walk around, with a cane and be like, oh, Joel, it's hell to be old. And that, even in my brain, I think, oh man, aging must really suck. Now I know I completely eradicated that whole belief, but I think a lot of us probably walk around with that. And the idea is like, oh, I'm 60. There's no way I can have good sex. Here you are, you're like in your prime right now. So
you only knew how hot my sex life is. Oh my God. Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
So really quick, before we jump into this, I'm really curious how you got started in this, because I'm sure, were you always just a sex expert, or
no.
When was the day that you realized, like, this is what I want to do? This is a problem, and I want this is like my mission. This is what I want to get out.
Yeah, I was 42 years old. It was my 11th wedding anniversary. My husband and I were inventing the internet with Al Gore in Silicon Valley. We both talked about how we're from the San Francisco area. And he was the inventor of Rhapsody, the first online music service. I was with the company that invented the cable modem, which brings broadband cable through your cable company to your home, which is probably what we're both on today.
Yeah.
So we were Silicon Valley, picture perfect couple, power couple. We lived in this gorgeous mansion overlooking what would someday become Facebook. Apple was there. Google was wasn't even getting started yet, and we were really in our heyday. We were just doing incredibly. We had a 6-year-old daughter, and I didn't want to have sex with my husband.
Wow.
And I didn't want to have sex with my husband because I never had an orgasm from it. I could have an orgasm with my 1.0 level vibrator back there in the whatever they were 90s, but it just wasn't satisfying to me. And I was just like doing anything I could to get out of having sex. And he begged and he honeydewed and he, tried everything. And I would begrudgingly have sex. It was mercy sex. And neither of us were happy. We liked all the other aspects of our relationship. We got along in every other aspect of our relationship, but not in bed. And I liked him at first. Like, I literally married him because he had a nice big dick, and I liked him, and he was tall and handsome, and I liked kissing him and having sex with him. But after a decade, 11 years of having intercourse without an orgasm from intercourse, I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I thought, God, what am I going to do? And this is where we saw all of our friends getting divorced, and we knew it wasn't money because we all had great jobs, right?
Yeah.
We were rich, literally stock options, millionaires, multimillionaires. So we said, all right, well, we got to fix this because I don't want to ruin our kid's life. And I like you, and I could get another husband, but I literally could never do as well as if I stayed with my husband. I married very well.
Yeah.
So did he, frankly. We're a good match.
Yeah.
31 years later, we're having the best sex of our life. And all we realized was that it just literally, sex is a learned skill and we're not taught. And it's not our parents' job. And it's not our school's job. It's our job. It's personal growth work. And luckily in today's world, there are a lot more sex educators and there's lots more books written about sex and lots more techniques to learn. And what you see on porn is not it. That's for men to masturbate to keep your sperm topped off so that when a woman wants you and she's like, I'm ready, you're ready. Like, that's what that's for. So I have been, we ended up going to we did a lot of personal growth work. We spent like 30 grand on workshops and therapists and went to tantric sex workshops and all kinds of things. And all, like, literally it took no time. We'd go to a sex workshop, we'd learn some things, we'd start doing them, and our sex got better. And here's what I want to say. Sex is a learned skill. You get better at it your whole life long. The more you do it, the better you get. The better you get, the more you want. The more you want, the more you do, the better you get. It's a virtuous cycle. And it's all learned. You don't know what you're doing. You are currently, no matter who you are, if you are listening to this or watching this podcast, you are working at about 10 to 15% of your possible capacity. You have massive upside. It is super healthy. And if you keep learning, you get better, and it provides more and more joy, creativity, personal power, vitality, good hormones, good neurotransmitters. I mean, it is just like one of the absolute best things that you can do. It's your God-given right, and it's suppressed in our country, but there's people like me who basically have made a living running a publishing company and a sexual vitality supplements company, transforming having sex into making love by teaching people very simple, learnable skills that couples can do, singles can do, that make sex get better and better your whole life long, including the learnable skill of having orgasms from intercourse. All women can do it. You are not broken. It is easy to do. It's literally free on my betterlover.com website. How to have penetration orgasms from intercourse. I tell you how to do it. All the orgasms are just, tell me what to do. I do it. It works. I'm having them now. And there's 3 kinds of orgasms. There's places you touch. There's orgasmic techniques like female ejaculation, expanded orgasm, male multiple orgasm. They're technique driven. They use a form like yoga or Tai Chi or Jiu-Jitsu or anything. They are a form that works with the body's operating system to give you the experience. And the third thing is toys and tools and objects of desire. And when you look at all that, there's 20 different ways to have orgasms. And so my story was, I didn't come, now I do, 20 different ways, and I've been getting better and better ever since. And the great thing about sex, I joke recently that sex, if it was a brand, it would be like sex. There's always more. That's sex's tagline. There's always more. Because even I am constantly pursuing new things. My husband, luckily, he's up for anything. I always joke that will be the epitaph on his gravestone. Tim Bratton, up for anything. And he thinks crazy stuff up to do all the time. And I'm always like, hey, I've got this sex toy I want to try. Hey, I want to zap your dick with this thing. And he's like, okay. So... So it's really that origin story is, if I can do it, anybody can do it, and it can save your marriage too.
It's so amazing, and it's keeping it fun, keeping it playful. I love that you said making it a skill, because I think we don't think of it that way, and so that leads us to being defeated right away. We just think, again, it's either a belief that you had, sex is at 40, oh yeah, that's just normal. You're having kids and you just can't have that much. Your sex life changes, right? Anybody on the water cooler talk or at the work, yeah, I know my wife, right? It's that kind of belief system coupled with the fact that you feel, well, it just must always be this way. But then someone like you saying, no, it's a skill. You just got to learn it. That's so empowering. I mean, it really is reversing, and you can change these things. So I'm amazed by, all these orgasms. Oh, I want to ask you. Yeah. So in your opinion, just from the people that you coach and you work with and all the data you have, are most women then just not having orgasms?
I don't coach anybody. I don't see anyone one-on-one, and I'm not a therapist. I'm an author of passionate lovemaking techniques, bedroom communication skills, and I teach sexual regenerative concepts so people can keep their genitals in good working order so they can do the other 2 things. Yeah. And I would say that generally it is impossible to tell how many women are and aren't having orgasms, but more and more women are. That's changing with the younger and younger generations. So it's not as bad as you might think it is, but we still are barely scratching the surface of our orgasmic potential. And you want to hear a really nerdy fact? Biohackers love nerdy facts. So one of the things that has just finally occurred is that what is this, 2022? We now have dissected the clitoral structure out of female cadavers, and we're looking at it and we're understanding where the nerves are and where the blood supply is innervated and what the size of these structures are. Because one of the things that I really want people to understand about their own anatomy is that women have as much erectile tissue inside our vulva as our male-bodied partners do in their penis. If you think about a penis as like a banana, all the fruit of the penis is erectile tissue, and about 50 to 60% of the penis sticks out of the abdomen, but another 40 to 50% goes in and down toward the testicles. So you got a big bananas full of fruit there. If you think about an erect penis and then you like double that much tissue is in our vulva, wrapped around our vagina. There's 3 erectile tissue systems in the male penis and 3 in the female vulva. There's the clitoral, the urethral, which people call a G-spot. It's not a spot, it's a big tube of erectile tissue, like a pool noodle. And the perineal structure, which we barely know anything about. But recently, we've been starting to, as sexperts, see these dissected clitoral structures with the little glands, the head, that's the part that you can see, and then the shaft, our penis, and then the body of the clitoris, and the arms or crura, and the legs or vestibular bulbs of our clitoris. And even just that, without the other 2 components, is this giant, it would fill up your hand. It would cover the palm of your hand. And yet women are having sex, which is what I did for 11 years, which is why I wasn't having orgasms. We've been having sex with a flaccid vulva. We need a clitoral erection. And this is why when we're talking about sexual biohacking, man, it all comes back to blood flow. Blood flow, blood flow is the core, the foundation of good sex. I mean, we all know how to make babies. Slot A into tab B and you conceive. But sex,
I have 2 of those, so yes.
These are learned skills. And add to that the fact that men, being testosterone dominant, typically think they know more than they do. Like they give themselves credit for being more smart about things than they actually are. It's just a natural thing. Testosterone makes you very, very confident, which is why I like testosterone replacement therapy as part of my bioidentical hormone regime, because I like the confidence that having, that's why I like lifting heavy weight. When I go to the grocery store and carry my bags in, I carry all the bags at once. I'm like the Liver King with his giant sled. I'm there with my grocery bags, like burdened down, as heavy as, I'm always looking for heavy weight because I love the confidence it gives me. So this thing about knowing what you're supposed to do is falderall and fiddle-dee-dee. We have to learn things, and that's where people like myself come in. And I may or may not be the sexpert for an individual person, but I'm the sexpert for enough people that I have spread the word about female engorgement, getting blood flow to the genitals, that orgasms are just simply learned skills, that I have helped so many women have their first orgasms, their second kind of orgasms, their fourth orgasms. They female ejaculated. They're now having expanded orgasms. They're using all kinds of sex toys. They're writing to me. Yesterday, I got an email from a woman who said, I have a secret love affair with my girlfriend, and when our boyfriends go out of town, we have really hot sex together. And I was wondering if she taught me how to have orgasms off of the jacuzzi jet in her tub. And I was wondering, do you think if I stuck a yoni egg up inside me, it would make my orgasms more intense? And I said, well, I'm not sure that's what I would do. I would take a waterproof vibrator that was more like a penis-shaped vibrator, and I would put that inside and then aim the water jet on your clitoral structure, so you're getting that kind of like double sensation. You're getting that nice full sensation with the vibrating water jets, and then have your girlfriend soap up your boobs and play with your boobs and nipples, because that's going to turn you on more, because your nipples are part of the clitoral structure. They engorge and send blood flow to it, so your orgasms will be better, while she whispers in your ears and tells you how hot you are and tells you she wants you to come for her. And try that. And she's like, oh, okay. And she's like, what vibrator? And I said, well, this one's a nice size. This one's the super big boss size. You pick. So women are just like, you just tell them and they can do it. So it's really just about being like a champ. You introduced me as a champion and advocate for all who want more passionate lovemaking. And that's really what it comes from, is just giving people the ideas.
Yeah, okay, I love that. And I mean, even as you're just giving that example of that story, it sounds, I mean, you know, I can just think, even as a guy, I may be like, oh, let me just try one thing, right? And like, oh, like that. But really what you outlined for this woman is like a recipe of like 5 different things. Like, we're stimulating multiple pathways to create that engorgement. And I think as a lot of guys, at least I'll speak for myself, I mean, maybe I try, oh, like you said, the G-spot, because that's like everyone talks about that. Like, I would just try like one thing, right? And it's like, no, you got to be doing multiple, and you got to be trying and understanding there's 20 different other orgasms that, you know, that a woman might either gravitate to more or less, right?
Yeah. I want to give you 2 of my free downloads right now that are both really germane to this particular conversation. One of them is, it's called 7 Stimulating Sex Positions. It's an illustrated guide with my 7 favorite sex positions, because one of the things that I find with couples is that what they really want from me is not necessarily just a technique, but an idea of a fun thing to do. And it's at the number 7positions.com. You can download it. And it shows you how to stimulate multiple locations simultaneously for massively intensifying orgasmic pleasure together. So that's a really good one, where it just brings in a lot of components into a single position. And then the other one is my latest thing that and I think you and your wife would really like this. It's called Sex Life Bucket List. And basically, you guys you download this PDF. I don't collect your data. You just download this PDF. It's at sexlifebucketlist.com. And it has 48 different fun things you can learn in the bedroom together. And couples that play together stay together, especially in the bedroom. And when you want to get out of the monotony of monogamy and that single way you found to get each other off that starts to become boring, it's trying new things together. That new relationship energy comes from beginning and as beginners together and learning new things. And this is 48 things that you could try, including the 20 kinds of orgasms. And you do it this way. You each go through it and you write your A stuff, like these are definitely going on my bucket list. B is, I wouldn't go on my bucket list, but if my wife or my husband wanted to do it, then I would totally do it with them if that was an A for them. And C's are, it's not for me right now. Because never say never. Something you used to think was like, that's kind of weird. Why do people do that? All of a sudden, that's what you're masturbating to a decade later. And you're like, I really want to do this now. It's all that's really getting me off. It's like this horny little thing I can't stop thinking about. And so because you're always maturing sexually as you age, you know, you've got your 20s where you don't know anything. It's all novel. And then your 30s where you're raising your kids and you're kind of tired, but you're still trying to hold on to your sex. And then your 40s, you're like, oh shit, I'm going to get old. I gotta get on this now. You know, where the kids actually can have sleepovers and we can do some hot stuff at the house, you know? And then you get in your 50s and you're like, use it or lose it, man. But then in your 60s, you're like, well, I did all those sexual regenerative treatments and I got a banging boner. And now I'm like the best lover ever. Like by the time you get to be in your 60s, you get to be pretty freaking good in bed. And in your 70s, you've got even more time for fuckery. So it's just, you know, I have a lot of people who follow me in their 80s who are having great sex. I wish I had more 90s. I used to have one guy, Matt, but I do think he passed on.
Oh, sorry, Matt. R.I.P.
Matt. R.I.P. Matt. Loved you.
Susan, I'm really curious too. What you just said is powerful. How do we broach the subject? You know, I know for couples, and you know, I'm interviewing you right now, and I'm already excited. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna take this list and I'm gonna go bring it to my. But like, yeah, not always are couples or the significant other like open to these things. So have you ever found like a strategy of like, hey, honey, like I just learned like the sex bucket list. Like, have you learned any strategies? Because everyone's different, and how do we broach this with our couples so that they're like into it too?
Yeah, I'll tell you a way to do like a baby step thing for that. And that is, if you don't have the kind of relationship where you can speak openly around your sexuality, the best place to start is with a technique that I give away called the Sexual Soulmate Pact. And the pact is an agreement between partners that when you're making love, you're going to give each other feedback. Women are afraid to give men feedback because men think, they really want to do such a perfect job that if they think they're not, they contract and they kind of like get all cranky and then it ruins the date. So women just shut up and suck it up. And that's a recipe for disaster. She has to be able to say, and you both have to be able to say, anything you need to say, higher, lower, too hard, you're on my hair, blah, 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 I want this, do this, and have it be like, okay, I've got it. Yeah, that's cool. And so the Sexual Soulmate Pact teaches a couple how to really begin to get comfortable talking to each other about sex. You got to kind of start there. But if you have a few things, if you know you're bored in the bedroom, but your partner is very conservative, it's best to do something that comes from one of my programs called the Seduction Trilogy, which is running her a menu of very, very small offers. You got to start super small and easy. Like, hey, honey, I was thinking it might be really fun if we tried some sensual massage. Or I was wondering if you'd like for me to give you a yoni massage. Yoni is the word for the ladies' parts in tantric lovemaking, and I thought it would be really fun if I gave you a yoni massage, and maybe you could learn how to give me a lingam massage. Lingam is the penis in tantric lovemaking. Maybe you could give me a lingam massage, and we could try that. Or hey, I downloaded this ebook about 7 stimulating sex positions, and there was one in there called Chingalinga that looked really fun, and I was thinking I would like to try it with you some night. But maybe you want to look at the book and look at all 7 of them. They're really cute illustrations. They're wearing clothes. It's nothing to be, worried about. Maybe you want to try a new position, or maybe we could have sex in the dining room when the kids go off on Friday, and just lock all the doors and, make sure we know where they are. And then, just try doing something a little kinky, like having sex in the dining room or on the table or whatever. Start really, really small and work your way up. You maybe aren't going to be able to be like, hey, do you want to answer the 48 questions on Susan Bratton's sex life bucket list and start our list and start working it down,
Yeah.
But a lot of couples have good communication, especially people who follow me. They're
Yeah.
like the hungry ones who are like, give me more, I want more. And I'm like, all right, here you go, do sex. There's always more.
I love what you said. That's perfect because, when we think about habit creation, and I work with a lot of clients, like you said, building those small baby wins or just those
Baby
small
wins.
steps, that's what's going to create that momentum. And so that makes a lot of sense. And then also, you brought up newness and like novelty.
Yes.
And, I remember Tony Robbins talking about like the 7 human needs or maybe it was the 6 human needs. I can't remember now. But, like novelty is a big one.
It is.
And I'm just curious, like, I'm just thinking all these things and these gadgets and these tools, like, do you think that's necessary, like moving in or as we age or for anybody, like having all these tools, or can we still have a perfectly abundant, amazing sex life without all these new things?
You can't have sex as good as I'm having if you don't have a couple of these tools. So if you want to have not as good sex as Susan Bratton, go ahead. Stay in the 19th century or the 20th century. I'm in the 21st century. There's sex tech. There's regenerative treatments. There's things that dial back aging. There's things that give me orgasms in ways that your fingers, your tongue, and your penis can't do. And Mama's going to have them. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay, perfect. I'm so happy you said it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, 2 things. One, let's talk about the regenerative medicine side and some of the cool biohacks and things that you're seeing there. And then let's also just talk about some of the maybe simple tools that we could all utilize, or some of the like most common ones that would be like a great first step. And then maybe even some of those luxury items that if we want to get to like the big daddy luxury items, we can talk about those too. But yeah, talk about the regenerative medicine side of sex, Susan, and what you're seeing, and then actually what you're doing.
Okay. So I'm doing it all.
I know you are.
Because I'm a sexual biohacker. I try everything. And I've hurt myself. There have been things that haven't been good. Things that didn't work. And if I don't try it all, then how am I going to tell you what I recommend for you? So I go first, always. Let's talk about what happens over time. Why do we have to use
Perfect.
regenerative treatments?
And I know you've talked a lot in the past about, and even mentioned it briefly in the beginning of the podcast, the atrophy of our genitals. And
Exactly.
I don't think we like that. Like, I think men especially, and we all know, like, hey, as we age, we start to atrophy. We start to lose muscle mass, but we just think of it as muscles. And I don't think I even think about it like, oh, my genitals are getting atrophied. That's not a good thing. So
That's exactly what's happening. As we wrinkle, as we age, we dry out, we desiccate, we shrink. That's what atrophy is. You know, the sarcopenia of muscle loss is actually just the sarcopenia of tissue loss. Sarcopenia, they say it's, muscle, but it's our whole bodies. I mean, if you think about someone who's 50 and then you think about them again when they're 80, they've lost 20% of their stature, their overall volume, their physical form is literally smaller. So their dick didn't stay the same size.
that atrophy too.
And I'll tell you something, Joel. This is like the cruelest friggin' cut of Mother Nature, which is that atrophy happens to all of us. If you are wrinkling outside, you are wrinkling inside, essentially. It's not wrinkles, but it's shrinkage.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that happens is that most people are heterosexual, monogamous male-female pair bonds. And so that's the big bell curve in the middle, and that's who I speak to. If you are same-sex couple, what have you, gender non-binary, all good. This all still works for you. But I'm just going to talk about a man and a woman here because it's the easiest construct for the dialogue. As we age, about when we are 40, and by the time we're 50, we have half of the hormone production and half of the nitric oxide production we did when we were 20. By the time we are 50, we have at least 20% atrophy of our genital system, and that's shrinkage. And the shrinkage that occurs is your dick gets smaller. Her vagina and vulval tissue, the vulva is the outside, the vagina is the shaft in the inside. And when we talk about the vulva, we often just kind of use it as the term for the entire urogenital system for women. I'll also sometimes say yoni. I'll also sometimes say lingam, right? Those are the two words that are kind of like sweet words for the same thing. So I'll interchange them. But her vaginal tissue is actually thinning. And so she's getting what's called vaginal laxity, which means her vagina's got an opening to it. It's open. It doesn't, and then she loses pelvic musculature. And she begins to have urinary incontinence, prolapsed cervical organs, because the tissue's thin and it's open. It can't get a good grip on a penis as well as it used to. Add to the fact that now his penis has lost volume and it's smaller, so he's putting a smaller thing in a bigger hole that doesn't get a grip, and she's got loss of orgasmic intensity from that, loss of orgasmic contraction and pleasure. Add to that he's losing sensation, he's having sensitivity loss, and so he can't feel as much, and then she can't grip as hard, and then she's having clitoral atrophy, urethral atrophy, perineal atrophy, all of this. Her labia is atrophying, it's starting to sag, her vagina's starting to get thin, the tissue's thin, she might have painful sex, she's having loss of lubrication, and she doesn't feel her orgasms as well as she used to. All of these things are this long, slow slide down. Almost not perceptible until they become a problem. That's what happens. Pretty soon, sex doesn't feel as good. He's pumping away and he can't have a climax. It hurts her because she's thinned her tissue. And they're like, what do we do, Suze? And I'm like, da, 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 you use sexual biohacking. And then I tell them, here's the stack. So these are the things that you do that synergistically work together with all the multifactorial issues that created the atrophy to plump all that tissue back up, get that blood flow going, get those hormones thrumming, get that grip back, get rid of the incontinence, get the sensation coming back for both of you, get the penile volume nice and thick, get the blood flowing into your dick, getting it super hard again like you're 18. And this is what you want. So when you have great working genitals combined with the wisdom, knowledge, and experience of being an older person who's put their intention on learning their sexual skills all their life, you have Susan Bratton quality sex, right? That's the trick. It's the combination of the body and the skills and the communication skills.
Yep.
So what is the stack? What does it look like? The very first thing that it looks like is nitric oxide supplementation. I have two companies. One of them, as I mentioned, is a sexual vitality supplement company. I make my own nitric oxide supplement. It's called Flow, Flow. I'll send you some.
Awesome.
Because I am an organic girl. I live in Mill Valley, California, and in Encinitas, California. I eat organic food. I don't eat things sprayed with pesticides and glyphosates. And the problem is that most nitric oxide supplements are made in big vats out of corn syrup in China that have been sprayed with pesticides, so they get high yields. And those pesticides end up in the capsules. So this is a citrulline-based supplement because citrulline has been proven to be a better we have multiple redundant nitric oxide pathways because what nitric oxide does is it relaxes the smooth muscle. One of the many functions it does is relax the smooth muscle tissue in the endothelium, the vascular blood supply, so that your body can pump the blood to the places that it's needed at the time, because you don't have blood enough for everywhere. You only have enough blood for some of the places at the same time. I mean, you have blood everywhere, but you need volumes. So when you need an erection, clitoral erection, penile erection, you need blood to the pelvis. That's also what lubricates the vagina. The vagina is a muscle, strong, pushes out the baby's heads, grabs onto the penises, right? It's like, argh. If it doesn't have good blood flow, the muscles don't work well. And when you send blood to the pelvis, then the liquid from the blood plasma is recruited through the vaginal mucosa, and that wets the lining to the vagina, creating the lubrication. There's no glands. The Bartholin glands are for antibacterial. They're not for lubrication. So we get wet from our blood plasma. If we don't have enough blood flow to the pelvic bowl, we can't get the lubrication. And the blood flow engorges our clitoral structures. It makes us, if you think about it, you take a really tiny little thing, you hold your fist tight and small, and it has X amount of surface area. You open your hand and make a big kind of empty open fist, like you'd be holding a balloon. That has way more surface area. You fill that clitoral or erectile penile system up with blood. It creates an erection. The erection is an expansion. The expansion means there's more surface area. More surface area sends more signals of pleasure to the number one sex organ, your brain, processing it as higher amounts of pleasure. Wow. So that's really what's happening with aging, is you aren't experiencing the same amount of blood flow. So blood flow is even more important than hormones. Hormones, of course, help with sexual desire, especially testosterone. Another reason I like testosterone replacement therapy, and I put it right on my clitoris and labia in a cream.
Talk about, okay, I've heard about this. Yeah. Where do you get this cream, though? I can't find it. I heard these good things about it.
Compounding pharmacies.
Okay.
Yeah, you just ask your doctor for a testosterone cream suspended in organic shea butter. And that's how I also take my estrogen. I take my Biest, estriol and estradiol, a Biest, a blended estrogen, and it's in shea butter, and I just put it right inside my vagina. I put it right where it needs to go because it goes into my bloodstream. Your vaginal mucosa and your oral mucosa, your mouth, are the same tissue. And so you could take a pill, it has to go through the liver, through the stomach acid, or you can put it right in your vagina. It goes right into your bloodstream, and it gets delivered right where it's needed to keep that vaginal mucosal lining nice and supple. Estrogen keeps your skin supple, including your vaginal skin. So these are very, very, and then you top that off with hormones, you top that off with progesterone. Those are your three. You've got your estrogen, your biest, your testosterone, and your progesterone. I have a relationship with a company called Marek Health, MAREK health.com/Susan, where I have this very specific hormone profiles that you can order, and they'll order them for you, give you a lab slip, and then they'll give you a doctor who will interpret and help you place your orders for these things. So
That's fantastic.
If you want an introduction to Marek, they do an excellent job. They have health coaches, they have doctors, they help with supplementation. They're very functionally oriented. So
that's
I
fantastic.
Think is the number one thing.
And I want to just highlight what you mentioned about nitric oxide. I got a chance to interview Dr. Nathan Barry.
Nathan Bryan.
Thank you.
He's the world scholar on nitric oxide, the miracle molecule.
He is amazing, isn't he? And he's just such a down-to-earth, humble guy. And he was saying, listen, Joel, like you kind of mentioned it, like every root cause disease or anything, without nitric oxide, you're going to have inflammation and lack of blood flow, lack of circulation. And if you aren't addressing those issues, you'll never get better. And it just highlights exactly what you're talking about. So you got to open up those pathways, and NO is like the miracle molecule. So I love that you have a product that's addressing that.
It's ground zero for sexual health and for heart health, cognitive function, etc. The other thing I think that is really important as well is to remember that and I bet Nathan said this, you've got to eat your leafy green vegetables and your beetroot. You've got to eat natural plants, but you can't use antibacterial mouthwash, or you kill off the bacteria in your mouth that convert the nitrites to nitrates. Yeah. And then if you use proton pump inhibitors or acid blockers, which you shouldn't be doing, you need high stomach acid, not low stomach acid.
Right, especially as we age.
Exactly. We lose our stomach acid, so betaine is really good, also made from beetroot. Betaine is very good for increasing the hydrochloric acid in your stomach. Otherwise, you can't convert the nitrite to nitrate, nitrate to nitric oxide. And that's why a lot of people are very low in it, is they're not eating enough leafy green vegetables and beetroot every day. And if you read Younger You by Dr. Kara Fitzgerald, have you had her on your show?
No.
She'd be really good to have on your show. She really talks about the importance of eating organ meats, beetroot, leafy green vegetables, and the importance of methylation. A lot of people have genetic anomalies that don't allow them to methylate their B vitamins well. And there are a lot of things you can do with your nutrition around methylation, because we need our B vitamins, and we need our D vitamins to make our hormones and to make our neurotransmitters. And we also need our minerals like boron. Boron is what uncouples testosterone from bound to free. And if you're low in boron, you literally can't, you've got all this bound testosterone that you're not utilizing because you're literally missing minerals. So the second thing that I make is a daily multivitamin, multimineral complex with methylated Bs, betaine HCl, and it has a libido botanical built right in. It's like a one a day with a little something more.
Nice.
Because indigenous cultures throughout history, everybody wants to feel horny. I mean, the reason you want to feel horny and turned on and you want to have libido, and the reason why people bemoan the loss of libido, is because it makes you feel alive, and when you're horny, you want to procreate. And when you stop wanting to procreate, you're dying. We are planned obsolescence people.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, at 61, I take enough hormone replacement that I still menstruate. I still have my period at 61.
Wow.
And I do it on purpose, because if you ain't bleeding, you receding. Right?
I love you, Susan. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to move into planned obsolescence till I'm goddamn ready, and I ain't ready. Yeah. So there's zero contraindications for continuing your menstruation through your 60s. Many, many women are doing it. A lot of women don't talk about it, and for some women it's not right. They're like, I don't want a period that long. Well, I do.
Yeah.
And I can have it, and I can have incredible, great, solid testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone profiles. My cortisol is great. My adrenals work great. I eat a lot of liver. I eat a lot of foie gras. I went to France and ate foie gras multiple times a day. It was so good.
Okay. Amazing stuff. That was great. And I'm looking at the time. I know we're gonna have to wrap things
Oh
up, which I'm
God, sorry.
disappointed
Okay.
because I have so much more to ask you. But
Okay.
really quick, then also you mentioned that some of the regenerative stuff, which is
let's do
great.
it.
But also, what about the tools? What are some
Yeah.
tools that we can start bringing into the bedroom that you
I'm gonna show
think
'em.
everybody could be using, even at maybe a very simple level, like a starter kit, and then if we want to move up, we can move up to the big daddy, the luxury items.
Okay, let me go through the regenerative stack
Yes.
and finish that off. So you got to do your nitric oxide. You got to do your daily multivitamin, multimineral. Then you, to reverse atrophy for the penis, Gainswave, which is an acoustic wave treatment that stimulates new tissue growth in the penis. Combined with, and that's the luxury option, combined with a penis pump, a vacuum erection device. I have one right here. I opened it today so I could just show you. It comes, this one is called the Whopper. This is the one I recommend. It's a hand gauge that's, you put your penis in these cylinders, and when you put your penis in the cylinder, it pulls the air out, which pulls blood into your penis, which increases the blood carrying capacity of your penis. And when you hold that blood in the penis for 10 minutes and then you let the vacuum off, it's innervated and brought in all the oxygen and healing factors, which also work to heal the stimulation that comes from the acoustic wave, from the Gainswave, so that you're accelerating the healing of the treatment that regenerates the new tissue. You can also use the 2-cylinder system for penis enlargement. So you can actually take a 5-inch penis and make it a 6-inch penis, or a 6-inch penis and make it a 7-inch penis. You can increase the girth. If you've got a weak base from having rough sex, you can shore up the base. If your head is smaller than the shaft and you want a big head, you can use a head enlarger. You can sculpt your penis with the vacuum erection device. These are called the Whopper. This is a 2-chamber system. And you can actually improve the overall penile volume by 20% within a 10-month pumping program.
Wow.
I've written a book that over 50,000 copies have been downloaded. It's in its 2nd edition. It's called The Pump Guide. It's at pumpingguide.com. I explain Gainswave. I explain penis pumps, how to do it for enlargement, how to reverse ED, how to reverse atrophy. And I also talk about the P shot, or Priapus shot, which is PRP, injected into the penile tissue. It doesn't hurt, they numb you. And that uses the healing and growth factors from your own blood. It's like an organic healing protocol that allows you to accelerate further the healing you're doing with the Gainswave and the pumping. So the 3 of them work perfectly together. And when you take your supplements, you're getting your recovery and you're improving your blood flow. So that is a really good combo. Then, and I love to gesticulate with the penis pumps. Here I am, like pointing around with these giant cylinders. But
I love that you said that, because I think a lot of people think, oh, that's ridiculous, but, penis pumps, or that's only for like porn stars and stuff. But no, we're talking about living into our, into our hundreds in vitality and vital force. And so using some of these tools is going to be really helpful. So yeah.
You know what guys love the pumps? Bodybuilders. They love them because they already get progressive overload. They get pumping. They love to feel the pump. They want it for their dick. Yeah. I mean, I have so many bodybuilder fans. Plus, I am also a weightlifter. So I believe muscle is the key to longevity. Yeah. So that is what I do for men. Now, for women, I have another thing to show you. So for women, what I recommend is the Femi Wave, which is an outside the body acoustic wave that goes into the abdomen area for the urinary incontinence. It goes into the labia, the outer labia, which gets saggy as you age. So you like them nice and plump so your yoni looks really youthful. So they go on the outer labia and plump up the clitoral vestibular bulbs as well as the arms of the clitoris. And then in the perineal area to shore up the base of the pelvic bowl and that musculature. So you're getting good grip. You don't have incontinence. You've got good blood flow and you're stimulating new tissue growth. To do the inside of the vagina for
Now, the FemiWave can be purchased by anybody, or do you have to go to an actual center or something like that?
You go to a center. FemiWave and Gainswave, they use all various. It's a treatment modality that uses acoustic wave or shock wave machines, but there's all different kinds: radial, linear, shock wave machines of all different kinds, and they have different protocols for the different machines. But what it does is it stimulates new tissue growth where they apply the waves.
That's
so
awesome.
It can be applied to the female genitalia and the male genitalia because they're basically erectile tissue.
Yeah.
And then for inside the vagina,
really quick, sorry.
Last
thing I want to ask you, Susan, on that note is when, I'm just thinking, I'm a biohacker like you, and I just turned 40. I feel great, but, and everyone's different, their bio-individuality. But when do you see or just suggest that you guys should probably start getting ahead of this and people in their early 40s, or like when do you recommend people get started on this, men and women?
Yeah, if you're in your 40s, I recommend you use the penis pump. Unless you're seeing decreased penile volume or you're having any loss of rigidity, any issue with venous leaks, any issue maintaining an erection, then you go straight to Gainswave.
Gotcha.
And you add in your penis pump with that, and you add your P-shot on as your luxury thing if you can afford to do that. But the pump, you should be pumping in your 40s. Pump once a week just to maintain what you have.
Yeah.
Just to keep that blood carrying capacity at max. So that's what I would do.
And then what? That's amazing. Thank you. Yeah. And then what about for women in their 40s? Like my wife's 42. Should she be looking at FemiWave, or like she can't pump obviously, but I mean, what can she be doing?
Well, actually, there are vulva pumps.
Oh, here we go.
There are vulva pumps and there are clitoral pumps. So you actually can pump and you can increase your clitoral blood carrying capacity and your vulvar blood carrying capacity. And it's super hot to pump up a clit and look at it. You're like, oh my God, look at that.
All right.
Clit.
Let's go.
Then it's real pumped and it's kind of jacked and it feels super good to stroke it. It's amazing.
Just on that note, I'm sorry, I won't let you go to the next object. I'm just wondering, that does sound kind of cool. Would you do a pre workout? Would you do that like pre-sex? Would you do a pump session?
For sure.
For either male or female?
Oh, yeah. You definitely want to do that. Now, if you're pumping for enlargement, I say wait a couple of hours to ejaculate after you've pumped, because remember, what you don't want to do is whoosh all the blood out that you just pumped in there, So you pump and wait a few hours and then have sex, and it'll be harder. You pump 3 times and you'll see the difference in how hard your penis is. You pump just like every other day for 3 days and then get an erection and you'll be like, holy shit, that was amazing. I mean, it is really incredible what pumps do. Now, a lot of guys, when they purchased a novelty item in an adult store and they used it wrong and it didn't have any effect, that's, the reason I wrote the pump guide, it's at pumpingguide.com, get it and read it and follow the instructions, because here's what dudes do. They're like, I'll just pump it up to level 11 because I can take it because I have a testosterone bath and I'm a
it's
dumb
like
shit.
You're in my mind. Yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
Oh, I know the dudes.
Yes, you do.
Because I mean, what fills up my
Just give me this
DMs?
thing. I don't need the instructions.
Exactly. Guys fill up my DMs with, did I break my dick yet? You're like, no, you're fine. What do you think I should do with my dick? Here's what you should do. So this is called the VFit Gold. Going back to women, this is called the VFit Gold. It works beautifully with FemiWave, or you can just use this if you don't feel like you need the FemiWave yet. This is a red light device that goes up inside your vagina. It uses photobiomodulation. It also has warmth to recollagenate the vaginal mucosa, And it also has vibration for Kegel toning. This is a woman-owned business. I have a special package. I will give you the URL because I always want you to get everything you possibly can for free with it as a BOGO.
Awesome.
And that's at joylux.com/Susan. And you use this every day for 8 minutes, and it reverses incontinence, it increases vaginal lubrication, it engorges the vaginal canal. I like this for pre-intercourse. I'll use this on a day I know I'm having a date with my partner, and my vagina will I will just have the best intercourse because I've gotten all this engorgement up inside. It's easy to get engorged on the outside. You rub the labia, you rub the clitoral structure, you can get some of that going, but to get up in there, this is really good. joylux.com/Susan. I love this stacked with FemiWave, or start with this in your 40s and add FemiWaves when you really start to see some atrophy or have some problems.
Yeah.
And then you can use the O shot, the orgasm shot, PRP, into the clitoral structure from your own blood. That improves healing, regrows tissue, gives you more orgasmic intensity, can also be done up in the urethral area for incontinence, helps with lubrication, helps with sensation. Those are the kind of the gold standard for women. And then
V-Fit Gold, the perfect stocking stuffer. Awesome.
It is. I know, it really is. And then last but not least, toys.
Yes.
So there's two things I want to talk to you about, and those are the toys that I recommend for women because I want them to do orgasmic cross-training. If woman has one way of achieving, or every woman has one sex toy, and they're like, this always gets me off, and this is the one I use, and it could be 100 years old, and I get this tatty thing out of the drawer, and this is my way. And that's great, but what you really want to do is awaken more neural pathways to pleasure. You want to stimulate more tissue so that every place you touch on your vulva gives you orgasms.
Awesome.
All you're doing is awakening and enlivening the tissue and sending the signals to the brain and getting the engorgement. And for women with loss of lubrication, nitric oxide is really good. It helps also with orgasmic intensity. So it's not just for men. And there are 5 different kinds of sex toys that I recommend all women have. And these are what should be in her pleasure chest beside her bed. And she should be using them on the regular and rotating through them. And one of them is the Womanizer, which is the air stimulator. That kind of sucks on the clit. The other one is the Volta, which is like a motorboat on your clit. Blah, 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 blah. It's like a liquor, basically. The third kind is a internal and external, or rabbit vibes. So you're getting both internal stimulation. This is called the Miss By. Internal stimulation and external stimulation simultaneously. So you're starting to connect the dots from your external clitoral structure and your vaginal and internal buried clitoral treasure. And this one is this is my #1 favorite recommended sex toy right here.
All right.
And then you want something called a thruster or pulsator, which goes in the vagina, uses weighted magnets, and basically goes in and kind of in and out, slides in and out of the vagina. That's very good for helping women cross that gasm chasm, get orgasms from intercourse, not just tip of the clit focused, but enlivening the entire internal structures is a thruster or pulsator. And then last but not least, and there's a lot of different styles of them, a G-spot stimulator. So either a wand that goes up inside the vagina and strokes that top wall, the upper part of the cave where the G-spot, or urethral sponge is what it's really called, is, or it can be a vibrating kind of a thing with a G-spot pad on it. So these give a woman a lot of different sensations and help her become much more multi-orgasmic and ability to have orgasms from different stimulation. Now for couples, my favorite, let me see.
And as you're pulling out some more tools, I'm just curious, like, you're showing all those tools, and I'm thinking, okay, well, that's awesome. Now, my wife, we're happily married. You're happily married. Now, will you intertwine those tools as you guys play, or would you even do that just as far as kind of like a workout? Like you're just, keeping those pathways, alive and well and being, and, every now and then you'll be just kind of stimulating them.
Both.
Yep. Okay.
I solo
Perfect.
pleasure and I incorporate them into sex. A lot of times what'll happen is like a typical sex date for me might be, there's no typical, but like kind of a typical thing would be, we do like a bunch of stuff, makeouts, neck rubs, oral pleasure, stroking each other's genitals, intercourse. We go back and forth from intercourse to more oral to we're always going back and forth to different things. But at the end, after my male-bodied partner has ejaculated, sometimes I still have some orgasms in me. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just lean back against him and he'll play with my boobs while I have a vibrator, while I'm using one of my vibrators on myself, and I get a few more orgasms out of me, and then I'm done.
Got you.
So I think it's really good to let a woman just like, we always got a couple more in there that need to come out at the end. You might be done, but we're not quite. You got us all turned on and we got a few more in there. So I like to pop those out too.
Love that.
But for couples, I really like these, I like incorporating vibrators onto her clitoral structure during penetration, because that helps her cross that orgasm when she starts to have orgasms from the vibrator. While you're inside her, it's teaching her body to have orgasms during penetration. That's a good cross training strategy.
Yeah.
And then I also like these penis rings. This one is called the NOS from Fun Factory, and it has these little vibrating ears that go on the clitoris, and it also keeps the blood flow in the penis, which is really nice. So it keeps him really firm. And for this kind of a thing, what you really are doing is woman on top. When you're learning intercourse techniques, there's kind of like two distinctions. There's the kind of in and out pumping, sliding thing. And then there's the more down all the way on the penis grinding type of thing. It doesn't have to be grinding in a negative way. It could be just like moving deeply and stimulating the clitoris at the same time. And these rings are very good for cowgirl style, woman on top. You're wearing this and she's on top of you and she's managing the sensation to her clitoral structure with the vibration. But what's really nice for a lot of guys is a dual combined. This is called the Atom Plus from Hot Octopus. And this one is a vibrator for her on the top and a perineal vibrator for him, because more and more men are interested in having P-spot orgasms or blended orgasms, which is prostate pleasuring plus penile pleasuring. And this gives him the perineal pleasure to his prostate, while this holds the blood in his penis and helps him maintain his erection, while she gets this vibration on top of her. And there's a remote control so she can turn it up and down, which is nice too. She can kind of turn it up as she goes, start low and build and, get more and more sensation. So these are really nice couples tools. And then last but not least, there are prostate massage tools for men. And one of my favorites is a remote control where she can be on him with this inside him and she can be controlling his pleasure. I really love that. So there's so many things that you can be doing that are so much fun that why would you not want to? I mean, sure, you could be like, we're purists or something, but I like spicy food, salt and pepper. I want it all, just like give it all to me.
So amazing. Okay. I love all the hacks and tips and stuff, everything you shared. I'll be honest, I got more questions. I'm going to have to bring you back on. I hope if you're okay with that.
Sex, there's always more. It's like the perfect tagline, right?
I was just thinking at the very end, Susan Bratton makes sex great again. You're totally doing that. You need one of those hats. Okay. I've got a ton more questions. This was an awesome, at least first session to dive into. Susan, let's just wrap things up.
We gotta go relax now. Whew.
You gave me a whole bunch of ideas. I'll tell you that. Where can people just find you, learn more about you, and just and connect with you, and just all of the good work that you're doing?
Yeah. My main website is personallifemedia.com, where I have thousands of articles that I've written, including all those intercourse techniques, oral techniques, everything is on there. I have a website with hundreds of free videos at betterlover.com where I teach all kinds of things, including biohacking, penis pumping, vaginal lubrication, yoni massage, lingam massage, you name it. And then I'm also on Instagram. That's more like my personal self-expression, and it's my name, @Susan Bratton. And I've also just recently started an OnlyFans website where I post more sexy photos of myself, as well as I do a lot of my mailbags, like the girl who wrote to me about should she use the yoni egg with her hot date with her girlfriend in the jacuzzi spa, and I wrote the answer to what she should do. So people write to me all the time with their questions, and I answer them, and I answer them on my OnlyFans. So it's like super hot sex advice plus sexy pictures, and that's also at my name, Susan Bratton.
That's great stuff, Susan. Awesome stuff. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm gonna have you back for sure. Maybe Valentine's Day or something. We'll bring you back and have.
I get busy around then.
Yeah, I bet. So awesome stuff, Susan. Thanks so much for being on the show.